What's going on, guys? My name is Chase Frost, and in today's scooter video, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to 180. Let's get in 3, 2, 1. Now, if you guys are new to my channel, I make a lot of videos just like this one where I take all of my tips and tricks that I've learned from over the years and I compile them all into one video just like this one where you guys can learn how to do the trick the best way possible. But without any more hesitation, let's get into 180s. Before we even get our wheels rolling on the ground, let's get something straight. Let's put on a helmet. It's better safe than sorry, and you always want to protect your noggin. Now, it's also going to help if you guys know how to bunny hop. If you guys do not know how to bunny hop or do not know how to bunny hop high, you guys can click that link in the upper right hand corner and it'll take you guys right to my how to bunny hop tutorial. It's also going to pay off if you guys know how to fakies, so you might as well watch that tutorial too. Again, up in the right hand corner. But now, let's get into step number 1 on how to 180. Step number 1 is pretty straightforward. All we're going to do is just decide, are you goofy or are you regular? This is going to determine which way you're spinning in the air. If you're goofy, you're going to be spinning to the left. So that means if your toes point to the left, you're going to be spinning to the left. Now, vice versa. If you're regular and your toes point to the right, we're going to be spinning to the right. If you guys need help trying to determine if you guys are goofy or regular, a good way to figure it out is just to hop onto your scooter. Which way feels natural? Does it feel better to hop on like that? Or does it feel better to hop on like that? For me personally, I'm goofy. So that means I'm gonna be rotating to the left. Because my toes point to the left, I'm gonna be rotating to the left. You guys are really gonna wanna figure out if you're goofy or regular in the early riding stages. This is gonna help you ride better in the future. It's gonna help mainly with spin tricks. So tricks like flares, 360s, 720s, any kind of spin trick. Learning which way you're going to properly turn is going to help you from the beginning. But now let's jump into step number 2. In step number 2, we're going to focus on what we're doing with our head. All we're going to do is just literally turn it over our shoulder, just like that. We want to make sure we're using our nose as the guide because the nose is going to point us on where our body's actually going to follow. So if you guys watch any clips where people do like crazy spins or crazy flips, you notice that their head is the guiding force. So just like with a 180, when you do a 180, you look over your shoulder, you're able to look and see where you're gonna land. You can also even do this without your scooter. You can literally set the scooter off to the side over here. Imagine you're like on a scooter and then just like look over your shoulder and spin. Do that a couple times actually. So we're right here, looking over, spin. Now let's do one hop without our scooter just to really build it in. We're gonna hop after we turn our head. Turn our head, hop. Now the key step of this is making sure that you guys keep your head level. If you start looking up in the air, you're gonna start looping out. If you start looking down to the ground when you turn your head, you're gonna like nosedive. So keep your head level, then hop. Now let's move on to step number 3. In step number 3, let's go ahead and pick our scooters back up. Now that we're back on our scooters, let's go ahead and start linking together steps 1 and 2. So we're gonna be riding in a straight line. You don't need a lot of space for this, just a little bit, just enough to get one little push, and then we're gonna ride straight. From this point right here, I want you guys to start bunny hopping. But now when you're bunny hopping, I want you to turn your head in the direction that you're gonna be spinning. So for me, like I mentioned before, I am a goofy rider, so I'm gonna be turning to the left. So for an example of what we're gonna do right now, we're going to bunny hop, turn our head sideways, which is gonna make our body start to turn. Our goal here is to do a 90. We're not fully doing that 180 yet. We're just getting comfortable, getting our wheels off the ground while rotating our body just a little bit. I want you to do about 10 of those. Just get comfortable on your scooter. Make sure you guys can hop up, start to rotate your body. If you start falling off to the side, it means you're just going too fast. So if you're going like this and you go, and you start like lunging off that way, just slow it down. Don't get a lot of speed and just do it again. Go slow, one push, 90. Just like that. Perfect. Let's move on to step number 4. Now this is when it starts to get really fun because in step number 4, we're gonna talk about how to preload the 180. So in order to get the full 180 around, we have to preload the trick, which means crouching down, turning slightly, and then popping off into the bunny hop. Now the way to do this when you're trying your 180 is to ride in a straight line, crouch down, and spin the wheel in the direction that you want to spin. So if you're spinning to the left, you're going to turn your wheel to the left. If you're spinning to the right, you're going to turn your wheel to the right. The reason we do this is because it kind of starts to cheat the 180, so we start turning before we actually leave the ground. Once we start turning and we're ready to leave the ground, that's when we spring up, look to the side, and then pull the 180 around. Now, if you guys do this right, it should be pretty straightforward, because once you start to turn, you're already almost doing a 90 degrees turn, and then all you're gonna do from that point is just follow through with the rest of your body to pull it around. So we're gonna get one push, crouch down, preload, start to turn, spring up, and 180, just like that. We're flying through these steps. We're already on step number 5. In this step, I'm going to be giving you guys a couple tips that are going to help fine-tune your 180s to help you get them a little bit quicker. So for starters, I already touched on wanting to keep your head level in the air. But now let's talk about penciling out. I like to call it penciling out because while you're doing the 180 and you start turning, your body's naturally going to want to stay straight like this. If you start kind of curling in and doing all kinds of weird stuff, it's going to be a really weird 180. So when you start to turn, get that preload going, start turning, pencil out, look over your shoulder, stay straight, and then land. Combining the pencil out and the keeping your head level are going to be the 2 key steps to getting this 180 around. Now let's move on to step number 6. Now when you're practicing your 180s, you might notice that your feet start falling off your scooter while you're spinning. The simplest way to fix that is to just lift up on your scooter when you're doing the 180. So picture like you're pivoting all in one. So your feet are constantly glued onto your scooter just like this. Even doing this little exercise right here can help you when you're in the air. When your back foot, that back wheel, keep your thumbs underneath your grips and then just pulling up. While you're pulling up, you're letting your foot guide with it, kind of like a little spring right here. So, like I was saying before, when you're doing the 180 and you notice your feet just aren't staying on your deck, the easiest way to fix that is to just hop, pull up with your hands, rotate, and voila, your feet have now glued onto the deck. Now, just like we talked about in the previous step, penciling out does help, but also if your feet aren't staying on, sometimes it means you're penciling out too far. So if you notice your feet are sliding off, just pull up a little bit, still stay penciled out, boom, just like that, you're gonna knock out the 180. By now, you guys should be just about ready to go out and start sending your first 180s. But real quick, let me give you guys one more pointer. If you guys are trying it on flat land just like this, you're gonna have to learn how to fakie out of the 180. Otherwise, when you do your 180, you're gonna be rolling backwards and just fall off every single time. So the easiest way to do that is to either do a half cab or a pivot. A half cab is when you're going straight and you do 180 and you're faking. You just literally do another 180 out. That's a half cab. Now, if you're going backwards and you just pivot out, all you're gonna do is just lift your front wheel and just slide it around. Your back wheel stays on the ground just like that. Both ways work perfectly fine for the 180, but you're gonna have to learn them because when you're doing it, you're gonna be landing backwards. So learn how to get those fakies and then half cabs out of the 180s is gonna help you properly learn how to 180. Now, if you guys are fortunate and you guys have a ramp just like this one around, you guys can go ahead and start trying 180s air. That will prevent you from having to learn how to fakie and half cap out, because what you guys can do is just go up the quarter pipe like this, pop the 180, come back down, and voila, you're not going fakie. And that right there is going to wrap it up for today's tutorial on how to 180. But real quick, before I let you guys go, I want to read off a couple tips and common troubles that a lot of riders have. So I've got my little handy dandy clipboard right here. I'm just going to go down the list. The first question on my list is, why do my feet not stay on? We just talked about this in step number 6. The common reason this happens is because you're not pulling up enough on your scooter, which is not gluing it to your feet enough. So if you notice your feet slipping off, jump back to step number 6 and really practice pulling your scooter up, getting it glued onto your feet, and then rotating. Number 2, why do I keep landing on my back wheel and looping out? Again, I talked about this in the video a little bit. The main reason this happens is because you're not staying level with your head while turning. If you notice that you're starting to loop out or nosedive, keep your eyes and nose level while you start to turn, and that should fix that problem pretty instantly. But one thing you can do if you notice that you're leaning back too far, just lean forward, especially if you're doing it air on a quarter pipe. If you're doing a 180 air on the quarter pipe and looping out every single time, the most important thing is to lean forward to get yourself to land back in the transition and kind of map your body onto the transition. Number 3, why can't I land the 180 all the way around? It's all about that preload. If you guys don't get the preload right, you're gonna just end up doing 90s or worse yet, 45s. So make sure you're crouching down, turning your wheel in the direction you want to turn, then springing off and pulling and looking over your shoulder the entire time. Doing that combination properly will end you up with a perfect 180 every single time. And if you really start to fine tune it, that's when you can really start getting into 360s and 540s, because once you get the preload right and you start fine tuning all the turns, you can just tighten your body up tighter and just keep spinning forever. Alright, now that right there is going to wrap it up for today's 180 tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, make sure to give me a big old thumbs up and smash that subscribe button. I put a lot of work into these tutorials for you guys because I want you guys to be able to learn the fastest and most detailed way possible. That way you can build up the core fundamental steps to progress your scootering career. Also, if you guys have any friends that you think could benefit from watching these tutorials, please share them. It means so much to me when you guys share my tutorials with friends so they can progress better too. And also, if you guys have a trick that you guys want to learn in the future, comment it down below and I'll make a tutorial on it next. But that right there is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.